Hey guys, Kevin here for Fear the Walking Dead, Season 1, Episode 3, The Dog, and I was really looking forward to this episode. I've really been enjoying this show so far. I don't think they really need to take a break because of Labor Day, because there were shows on last week because of that, but for whatever reason, they did take a break, and I have to say that once again, this was another great episode. I think out of the 3 episodes that aired so far, this was by far my favorite. I mean, it's what we want out of a Walking Dead episode. And this, of course, is Fear the Walking Dead, but it's what I want out of a Walking Dead show in general. I want it to be chaotic. I want good storylines. I want emotional scenes. I want, you know, and we're even, I think, starting to get some clues about how the virus might have started. How this all started and why it's happening. And I think that's really interesting. There's a lot of chaos going on this episode. The episode overall was just really, really crazy and really just didn't hold up it didn't stop the crazy violence till the very end. And I mean, that's really what I want out of a Fear the Walking Dead episode. So let's just get into it. Now, a lot of this episode was about, of course, Madison finding Travis, Chris, and Liza and trying to find out where they are, because obviously they're not with Madison, Alicia, and Nick right now. And I thought that was very interesting how we saw them split up throughout most of this episode. They eventually do get back together, but through a lot of this episode, it's Chris, Travis, and Liza, and Madison, Alicia, and Nick, which I thought was very interesting the way they set that up. And of course, the Salazars in the middle. Who are really starting to play a much more integral role into the show in this episode. So we see right away that Chris looks out the barbershop window as mayhem ensues and people are flipping police cars. I mean, already it's just chaotic, and it's understandable why. I mean, like we've heard in the show, it's only going to get crazier. And of course, we expect it to be crazy. This is normal for us, at least. For them, obviously, it's not normal, but for us, this is normal for a Walking Dead episode. So a presumable walker looks back at him and startles him, and Travis orders him away from the window, and Madison then pours a glass of water, dims her light. She hears rustling across the street, and Alicia looks on, and they want to know what happened, but Madison tries to calm everything down. And again, we're not, I couldn't tell if Madison knew what was going on or not, but Nick is crushing his pills because, again, he's not sure. He knows what they're doing to him, and he wants to be able to not have to need them anymore. And Madison asks him to take them like normal, but he won't. He insists he needs more, and he can tell he's getting addicted, and I think that's really interesting. And Madison says she has enough to eat before he has to howl at the moon. And they're waiting on Travis. Obviously, that's what she's doing right now. So Travis and Liza discuss their plan to leave, and Chris wants to leave without Madison. And because, he pretty much thinks that the only way they're going to get out of this is to not go with Madison. And that pretty much is true. I mean, there's a riot going on at this point. There are rioters breaking into the place next door. But what I like about Travis is that he's, kind of a family-first guy. He wants to get the whole family together, make sure they're all safe, and then head out. But I kind of think Chris has a good strategy in that, maybe we should just forget about them because who knows if we're going to be safe or not. So Travis says they're safe in the barbershop because people won't be interested in stealing combs, and Travis tries to use the phone to call Madison while Chris fiddles with a razor. And when he's doing that, I'm like, you do realize that a walker could come up to you in any second and probably slit your throat. Like, that probably is what would happen. I know that's not like they're thinking, but like in my head, every time a character picks up a sharp object or something, I'm thinking, oh shit, is a walker gonna come after them? That's just how this show's gonna be, I guess. But, we then see Daniel confronts Travis and tells him that they will run in different directions if people are able to get in. And Chris calls for his dad's attention and tells him the wall is getting hot. And in Spanish, Daniel says they have to leave. The walls start to bubble up, and Travis gathers Chris and Liza, prepares to leave as Daniel gathers Ophelia and Griselda, and everyone tries to exit, and looters storm inside and destroy the entire place, and that's basically how the episode started. And I thought that was pretty crazy the way that started, but basically it got us right into the episode. So outside, a zombified officer eats another, and the two families scurry. They're trying not to be noticed among the chaos. Sirens are ringing out, and thugs rally before the opening credits start, which was a great way to start. But then we see that back at with Madison, Nick, and Alicia. Nick is sleeping on the couch, and Alicia's reading, and Madison busts out Monopoly and claims the top hat. At this point, I think at this point she's trying to just calm them down, make it seem like everything's okay, and I think she knows that something is wrong, but she's just trying to kind of stay calm at this point, and I think that really is what she's trying to do here, and kind of trying to distract them. So basically Nick the shoe and Nick picks the shoe and Alicia picks the car, and because their father was always the shoe, and Alicia says, referencing her late father, and Madison says that their dad wouldn't mind. I thought it was kind of a sweet moment, and the fastest we see that they set a Monopoly like really fast, like probably the fastest way ever. Madison, and again, you can tell that Madison is very nervous here, and I think Alicia and Nick can tell that something's wrong as well. But Madison asks who wants to go first, and Nick says to shut up and roll, and rioters continue to destroy the Los Angeles streets as Travis and company look for shelter, and Daniel's wife, and Griselda, that's her name, that's her name, basically, she gets caught under fallen scaffolding, and Travis and Liza free her but can't walk on her own. They load her into the bed of Travis's truck and drive off, evading rioters, and police close in on the mayhem, and Liza removes Griselda's shoe and sees the damage. It's pretty bad. I mean, it was pretty gruesome. Her leg is all bloodied and stuff. I honestly thought they were going to have to amputate her leg because it would look really bad, and I kind of feel that's what's going to have to happen here. Griselda is actually not a main character, so I don't know if she's going to die or not, but I don't really see it going well for Griselda, especially knowing what happens to people in The Walking Dead when they usually get hurt. They don't usually survive. So Nick buys Boardwalk, the most valuable property in Monopoly, completing his pairing with Park Place, and the fun settles when guns, basically they're not even able to finish the game because guns are ringing out, and it gets Madison's attention. She rolls anyway, and Alicia asks how long they're going to have to wait, and Madison says they can sleep soon, and Alicia's saying she can't sleep when she's waiting for someone to come home. She's in a major case of deja vu right now because that's what happened to their dad. And I thought that was a very emotional scene because we didn't really know what happened to their dad, and now we know what's happened to their dad, and it's really sad to hear. So Travis listens to the radio, which doesn't have much answers on anything, which is understandable. I mean, this is all just happening so suddenly, and drives past a blazing crashed ambulance. People panic outside the hospital. Police are waving them along with flares, and the cops yelling that they're not able to leave, and Daniel is telling his family Abajo, which means down, down, and Travis continues driving past the hospital, and Liza continues to analyze Griselda's foot, and Daniel tries to comfort her. Liza wants to go to another hospital, but Daniel is, you can tell he's a pessimist. He says they'll all be like that, and Daniel claims he and Travis will be even after he gets picked up at Travis's home before the families watch the power grid go out through Los Angeles, because we know the power is going to go out. That's going to happen. So Madison prepares food for Nick and Alicia. Nick wants to leave because it's been 6 hours, and Madison asks Alicia to put the game away, and Nick tries to convince her that they should leave without Travis. He believes it's in their best interests, and they know why they're waiting. They know they know that they're waiting for Travis, and they don't want to wait anymore. And Alicia hears noise outside, and the family looks, but they don't see anything. And they close the shutters, hear something on another window, and Nick investigates it and finds a German Shepherd with blood on him. And this is why the episode is called The Dog. But it's not his blood. So according to Nick, the dog starts, so he knows that obviously this dog witnessed some sort of attack. There was some sort of walker attack, and obviously this dog witnessed it. And the dog starts barking at the door, and then Nick notices the dead neighbor walking toward their house from the middle of the streets. And Nick goes off for a gun at the neighbor's house. He obviously doesn't know what's going to happen. He knows that neighbor is not dead because he knows that there's a walker right there, and Nick is probably, out of the four, the one that is the most aware of what's going on, and I think it's just because of, he experienced it first. He knows what's happened, he can see what's going on, and I like how smart Nick is with that. While the other ones, I think, are aware, especially, some of the other ones, especially Alicia, aren't exactly aware of what's going on. Alicia, I think, is starting to understand what's going on, but I think Nick, out of the four, is the most aware of what to do and how to prepare for this. So Madison and Alicia follow him. He's still wearing the old man's clothes, and the three use a hidden a hidden shortcut to their neighbor's house to enter. And as they do, the lights turn back on. They search the house. Alicia's by herself. The lights go off again. Nick finds the gun. Madison finds the shells. And outside, the dog barks. The zombie neighbor enters their house, chases the dog as Madison loads the gun. And then the dog's barking, but eventually stops, presumably eaten. The dog was probably eaten. That's probably what happened. And Travis's truck then pulls up, and the three go after him, hoping to stop him from walking in. And Travis then enters the house. And they know, and he probably arrived at the worst time because obviously they don't know what's going to happen to him at this point. This scene was so intense. I didn't know what was going to happen here. And he's calling out for Madison, and Liza and Chris follow him. And Travis believes that they're still there. And he finds the dead neighbor in the living room eating the dog. And Travis tells them to leave as the Walker tackles him, and Madison and Nick rush to his aid, and Alicia goes back for the shells. She finds an empty container of pills, sees 2 feet through a door, and in Madison's house, Daniel takes the gun from Madison, who won't use it, shoots the Walker once, blowing its face off but not killing it. And again, it just seems like Daniel, Griselda, and Ophelia know what's going on, because as I said, I think that they have been through this before, that they left their homeland, basically, to get away from the Walkers, and now the Walkers are here. I think that's why Daniel is so, this is what's going to happen, there's no way we can get away from this. That's personally what I think is going on. I think he's seen all this before, and he knows that this is just inevitable, it's going to happen. So he aims again, then kills it, and everyone's in shock at this point, because they didn't know that Daniel would do something like that. So, obviously, Daniel knows what he's doing at this point. And I gotta say, Daniel is a badass. He really is. I mean, even though he's worrying all the time, he definitely is a badass, and I've loved seeing him know what to do. That's something I think is very good, that I think by the end of the season, all these characters are gonna know what's going on. So, Alicia rushes back the yard, and a zombie grabs her hair. She tries to get over the fence, but it has her ankle, and Chris helps her over, and Alicia, elbows him after he does, and the family tries to figure out what happened to their neighbor Susan. Nick finally says that she's not sick, she's dead. And Alicia starts whining about Matt, and obviously she doesn't know if Matt is a walker right now or what's going on with him. And Travis asks Nick why he say that, and he says because it's the truth. And at least the junkie will acknowledge what's, at least, you can tell that Nick knows what's going on. Like I said, he knows what's going on, and he can tell that this is just, it's going to happen. They can't get away from this. And I like seeing characters aware of what's going on here. So Chris cleans up his nose in the dark bathroom. Travis helps him. The lights come on before Travis tries to snap Chris's nose back into place. And it turns out it's actually not broken. So Chris asks his dad what's going on, and Travis plays down the scenario. And I think it's just because he doesn't want Chris to be as worried, which is not a good idea at all, because if you don't make them worry, then they're not going to question you, and they're not going to really know what's going on. So I don't think that's a good idea in the long run. So Daniel calls his cousin. He's coming to pick them up in the morning. Madison wants to leave now. Travis wants to stay overnight, and debate ensues over what's going on here. And Travis wants to wait until they can see what's going on outside, and Madison says Travis has to take care of Peter, the neighbor, if they're staying. And Travis rolls him up in the carpet or a blanket and takes Peter outside. Daniel wants to burn the body, claiming that burning him will keep the sickness from spreading, and Travis is bitter about Daniel shooting Peter. But again, I think Travis needs to listen to Daniel, because he clearly knows what he's doing here. If he's able to kill a walker, then I think Daniel knows what he's doing. So inside, just like I think Nick knows what he's doing, those are 2 characters I think that are most aware of what's going on. So inside, Travis finds Liza washing up, and basically she tells Travis that they don't die, they keep coming back, acknowledging that he was right. And because, again, remember, she was hesitant about this whole thing. She was hesitant about going back with Travis. She thought that he just wanted Chris, and now she's seeing that, yeah, he was telling the truth, and that he did know what was going on. And Liza explains that Griselda's foot will be infected and probably will kill her, and like I said, I think they're going to have to amputate. That's probably the only way to get out of it, is just for them to find a doctor and amputate. The problem is, I don't think there is a doctor available, because who knows if there are any doctors that aren't infected at this point. So Ophelia questions her father. He insists he can handle everything on his own, and He says that this is the wrong time to be in someone else's debt because they're not family, and Griselda tries diffusing things and sends everyone to bed, and Ophelia questions how any cousins can be coming to help when she's been told they're all buried in El Salvador, and Daniel tries to deflect by telling Ophelia that her mother needs her help. He insists he knows where to go, and Griselda trusts him, and Daniel says it was it was her idea to teach Ophelia Spanish, explaining Ophelia's American accent while speaking Spanish. And I thought that was very interesting that we saw that because, of course, Ophelia is the only one that doesn't have a Spanish accent. She is American, and that makes sense. So what I'm personally thinking is that Daniel and Griselda have been this before, but if they went to America, I mean, definitely I want to find out more what's going on with them, and I like that we're starting to find out more about that. So Madison looks out the window and Travis asks where she got the pills. She tells him she went back to school, and Travis explains that he had to bring Daniel, Ophelia, and Griselda to her house because they took her in, but for some reason doesn't tell her about how crazy the streets were. Probably because he doesn't want to worry her. That's what I'm thinking. It seems like Travis wants everyone to stay calm when it's just not the way to do that. He's completely the opposite of Rick Grimes, which I personally really like. I didn't want Travis to be Rick Grimes. I want him to be different from Rick, and that just shows. He's not Rick who, if anything, I think Nick and Daniel is definitely the Rick of this show. Daniel's the one that we need to take action. We need to do this, and there's nothing else we can do. This is the only way to do this, and he's kind of like the leader of the group. While I think Travis thinks he is the leader of the group, and he's really not, and I think that's really interesting. If you really want to compare The Walking Dead, I kind of see the family as the Alexandria group, and then Daniel, Griselda, and Ophelia as Rick's group. That's kind of how I see it in this show. I know they're different, but I can't help but compare the characters. So, basically, we also see that Madison says of Daniel chewing Peter, she knows what happened. She killed the principal, but Travis, of course, doesn't know that she killed Artie. So Liza wanders around the kitchen. She approaches Madison. I thought this was a really great scene. I definitely really love this scene between Liza and Madison. Because obviously, we know they don't get along, but I like what Liza says to Madison. She tries to smooth things out between the two. And Madison says she needs something from Liza. She says if she ever ends up like Susan, the neighbor that turned to a walker, she needs Liza to take care of it and just kill her. That's what she needs her to do. She needs her to find a way to take care of it. And Liza agrees with a nod and walks away. And I'm definitely thinking that that's foreshadowing that Madison's gonna die. I really do see that happening to Madison. I mean, yeah, she is the main character of the show, but I think something could happen to her eventually. I mean, think of the original Walking Dead. How many characters were there on that show? And then think of all the characters that have died. Like, Dale died. All the people. Just think of all the people from, like, seasons 1, 2. I never saw seasons 1, 2. Like, I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I never actually watched seasons 1, 2, to be honest with you guys. Even though I understand The Walking Dead perfectly, I haven't seen seasons 1 and 2. So, I know what happened. I never was able to binge it. So, maybe one day down the line I'll binge it, but I can't really say anything about it because I haven't seen seasons 1, 2. Sorry, guys, I haven't. So the next day, Travis digs a grave for Peter as Susan continues to growl at him. And basically, he says good morning to Susan. And later, he brings the blanket to the street in a trash can. And a big man with a mustache does the same at house down. Inside, Daniel teaches Chris how to load a gun and what bullets to use. And Travis walks in. He's unhappy about Daniel's decision to teach Chris guns. And Madison says she didn't see the harm, but Travis tells her that he knows how she feels about guns, and Daniel replies that the gun doesn't care how you feel about it, and I honestly agree with Daniel saying. A gun is a gun. It doesn't matter how you feel about guns, you're gonna use it. If you, in this situation, you need to use it. There's nothing you can do to not use it. You have to use it, and I understand that Travis is kind of a man that doesn't use violence a lot and isn't very tough. You can just tell that he prefers, words and other ways, without killing. But this is a world where you just have to do that, and I think that's very interesting with a character like Travis. He's a much different character than I expected, but I really like what we're getting from him because he's much more of a family-first guy than he is a Rick Grimes. He's a man that still has his values, but he can't really have them in this world. This is a world where you can't really have morals. At this point, they don't understand that, but of course, Walking Dead, we know that you can't really have morals because it's gonna be your downfall. That's really what's gonna happen here. So Madison just has one more thing to do, and outside, she holds a hammer by the fence, and Travis finds her, and Madison explains that she wants to put Susan down. Travis insists that she's still Susan, and he says it isn't Madison's place to make a permanent decision like killing Susan. But you can tell that Madison is starting to be, understand what's going on here. And Daniel watches from inside, calls Travis weak, and I completely agree. Travis, I don't think it's that Travis is weak. I think he's just emotionally attached. He's a very emotional man. He's emotionally attached to things, and he needs to not be. And I think that's really is what Daniel's fear here is. And I think it's definitely very interesting. So the kids pack their things in the car. Madison sits down, is startled when Nick says he needs a couple more pills. Excuse me. And she abides, and Nick then sees the limited number of pills he has left, and he selfishly says that Griselda is a stranger and he needed all the medicine they had, and Griselda prays inside, and Ophelia's concerned about the other families leaving, and Daniel won't go with him. He insists he's protecting them, and Griselda has faith in Daniel's ability to protect her, and Ophelia says Travis, Liza, and Madison are good people, but Daniel says that good people are the first ones to die, and I completely agree with him, that you just can't be a good person in this world. You can't be, because if you're good, you can't be a good person. You got to be someone like Daniel, who I think he does care about his family, but he knows what's going on. He understands that, and I think that's very interesting to see Daniel's way of life. So Alicia gets into the car, and basically we see these army helicopters flying over, and Travis backs up. Liza looks at the neighbor's house. Blood covers the birthday blow-ups, and the two cars make their way down the street. Madison then finds Patrick, Susan's husband, and he starts to go into his house. She follows him, and then he finds his wife. Susan goes in to bite her husband, but an army man shoots her in the back of the head before pulling all the living away, and everyone's watching, including Alicia. And that's the moment where I think Madison wished that she put down Susan, because obviously if she would have put down Susan, that probably wouldn't have happened. And Travis and Madison are quizzed by an army woman, and basically they're taken away by these army men, and basically Travis names everyone who's there, including the Zalazars, and Madison wants to know where they took her neighbor Patrick, and the army man says he was covered in the infected blood before asking if Madison or anyone else in the house had been exposed. And he finds the fresh dirt where Peter is buried and asks what it is, and Madison tells them that their dog died, and Nick then surveys the window of the neighboring houses while hiding from the patrol in the streets, and a young girl hiding a doll waves to Nick from across the way. He second guesses breaking into the house and sees a plane flying overhead. Now I have a prediction that that young girl is the young girl that Rick eventually saw. If you remember that young Walker girl, that kind of reminded me of that. I don't know why, it just did. I have seen the first episode of the show, obviously, of The Walking Dead, obviously. He second guesses breaking into the house and sees a plane flying overhead making very quick movements, and one soldier spray paints by the door, and the cavalry's arrived, and the soldiers putting another body in the truck, and the Zalazars look from a bedroom, and Daniel says it's already too late in Spanish, basically saying that there's no way they're going to get out of this, and that's how the episode ends. And I thought this was overall a really solid episode. I like seeing the different viewpoints of life, definitely between Daniel and Travis, but like Daniel's saying, I really feel this is going to be Travis's downfall, is his attachment. You can tell that everyone he cares about, he is emotionally attached to, and that really is going to be his downfall. It's just, this is a world where you really can't have any emotional attachments, even though Travis wants that. You can't really have that, and I think that's very interesting to see what's going to happen there. Daniel seems to be the one that is going to become the leader. I think he knows what's going on. Do you think Daniel, Griselda, and Ophelia have experienced this before? I really feel that's what's going on there. That's very interesting to see what's going to happen there. Do you think that Madison or Liza are going to be in that position where one of them is going to turn into a walker? I really see that happening to Liza. I don't really know Madison because she's the main character of the show. Even Travis, I could see Travis turning into a walker, and that could be very interesting to see what happens there, but that's going to be very interesting to see what they do with that. I'm definitely interested in seeing what's going to happen there. Nick taking his pills, do you think this is the right thing for him? I kind of feel this is the right thing. We'll have to see, is he addicted to these pills? We'll have to see what happens there. What's going on with Matt, Alicia's boyfriend? We didn't hear much about him in this episode, so I kind of want to know what's going on with him, because obviously last time we saw him, he obviously wasn't in good condition, so I'd like to see what's happening with his character as well. But also, do you think that Daniel, Griselda, and Ophelia, do they trust these people? Obviously, Daniel kind of feels Travis is this weak man at this point, so I definitely think they should listen to Daniel, and that's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. But I wouldn't be surprised if these two families end up turning on each other at some point. I definitely see that happening. I do see chaos coming. There is already chaos starting, and it's only going to get crazier from here. But overall, guys, I really love this episode. Thought this was a really solid episode. Best episode so far far. We're already halfway through the season. I know, it's only episode 3. We're already halfway through this season. There's only 6 episodes, so we're halfway through. And I can't wait to see what happens in the last 3 episodes. But I will see you guys in my next video. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for another movie review. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.